I am, and thanks everyone for being here. I know we're pretty much the last session, I think. So we're the people between you and the beer and the wine. So hopefully make it worth your while for sitting in on this panel. And we do have a star-studded panel, which is across various verticals. So really interesting points of view. We've got Avi here, who heads up marketing for Ferns and Petal. So D2C. We've got Shivangi here, who heads up Molaco, which is in the ad tech space, and Vishal with HDFC Life, heading up marketing there. So pretty varied panel. With that, we're talking about what's really pertinent and center to all things marketing, right? Which is who's your customer and what's your view of the customer before we can even sort of market to that customer. So I'll begin with you, Avi. Looking at sort of the quick purchase cycle, looking at gifting as an occasion. I know you've just come out of your largest, I think, month, Feb 14th end day. And we'll get into, if you can share some of those year-on-year numbers. But how do you capture and unify customer data across, web, app, third-party marketplaces? Let's start with that.
Thanks a lot, Prashant. So, yeah, you're right. We just came out of the season of love, still in. Was very good. A lot of insights from the consumers, customers, very interesting ones as well. How the consumer pattern is changing, how frequency of purchase is changing, not just the time at which you want to purchase, which means that people are coming in last minute, yes, but at the same time they are coming more and more. It's not just the Valentine's Day that people celebrated, but also the Rose Day and the Teddy Day, and there were people who had been sending gifts to more than one addresses also and all of that. So a lot of insights during the Valentine's Day. From a single view of the customer, it's always been a challenge, especially being an omni-channel brand. So if you have to talk about single view, there are two aspects to this, right? One is that how is it that you're able to see a single view of the customer from a point of view of the channels from which the person is coming on the platform, which is, say, a Google to a Meta to an affiliate campaign that you're running, so on and so forth. How is it that you're able to stitch that together and have a single view of that customer, even if that customer is not a logged in user or not a signed up user? So what is it that you could do there so that you could create efficiencies? And the other part of it is that we are an omni-channel brand. So there is a customer which is going onto a retail store, is also buying from a hyperlocal or a marketplace, which is Amazon or a Blinkit. And there is the .com, which is the website, which is the largest, platform from which people come and buy the gifts. So how do you stitch some of this together? Some of these are owned by us, and we see that we collect this data and bring it on into one platform, which is through a single source of truth, having an email ID or a phone number as that identity of that customer, and then trying to connect it to all the channels that are there. Even a customer care phone number, how do you make sure that that is connected back into the system and so on? So one is collecting the data from all the sources. That is the first task. And second is that how do you integrate it together into one place? And the third task is that how is it that we are able to view the data as one customer data? So while I may have data from the same customer that this person has transacted with me in an offline space, online space, but how do I look at it and that data has to be available to me, that this data has all 360 views. So that is where we are trying to create dashboards, trying to create customer diaries, where we are able to look at individual customer level data as well as cohort level data. Because there will also be, you would also want to see all customers who have bought both online and offline, or all customers who have interacted with us both on a Meta as well as Google. So how do you create those kind of cohorts as well?
Also, I'll come back to this, but a follow-up question would be, quick commerce and how that's kind of, feeding into the customer view. But, we'll hold that thought. Vishal, with, life insurance, you've got a lot of data across multiple channels, right? So you've got sales agents, you've got your, direct-to-consumer channels. So how do you actually work across all of these silos in integrating that customer view?
Yeah, so, I mean, this is typically a issue in very large organizations, right? Especially the older organizations which started 20, 25 years back, unlike the younger organizations, which has a fairly, recent data-first tech architecture, right? So for us, for example, over the last decade, we've continuously worked on, our distribution channels have expanded, our customer base has expanded, the kind of policies that we have sold has expanded, and the technology platforms, right? I mean, just 10, 15 years back, people used to fill up a proposal form with a pen and paper, right? So just, so the previous cycle was kind of digitizing and moving away from pen and paper to, scanning and then filling up the form digitally and all of that. But the good part is what has happened in financial services is, we're kind of moving to what we call a microservices-based architecture, which allows you to kind of, based on APIs, etc., interact with a lot of systems both within the organization and outside the organization. So let's talk what is outside the organization first. So for example, an Aadhaar or eKYC data, which is crucial for financial services, right? Now, obviously that's consent-based, so you can't use it. It's only basis a certain use case. Credit bureau data, for example. So you can ping the credit bureau data and get a surrogate income, so I don't have to ask you an income proof. Similarly, there are other elements around risk data, et cetera, right? But that's mostly at the back office, if you see it. Now, from a marketing perspective, obviously the idea is who owns the customer, right? A lot of times, you as a company may not own the customer because the distributor says that this customer belongs to me and you have no right to market to this customer. I don't know if the quick commerce companies are doing it today, but they'll probably do it once they become larger. So that is what can be called as a customer ownership policy. Who does the customer belong to? Because the right to sell to the customer again, does it belong to the distributor or does it belong to the manufacturer? I think that's a very interesting subject to solve for, right? So obviously we work on our D2C platforms and everything, and try and build as much as possible first-party data. That's number one, right? So a lot of, let's say, campaigns are around customer data acquisition prior to customer acquisition. That's number one. Number two, then how do you enable your partners to go and market these products more if they kind of, in some sense, have ownership of the customer, right? Technologically, how do you solve it? As Avi spoke about it, there are legacy systems, of course. So there's a data lake, there's a data swamp. There's all sorts of data lying in various repositories. The attempt is to kind of take it to a unified data platform. Now, in common marketing lingo, it might be called as a CDP, or you can call it a marketing integration platform or a unified data platform. But just putting this together is very, very crucial because then you have much more attributes available than you would have in a normal case. Otherwise, phone number or some basic details se kya hi kar loge aap. So you need a lot more information, both structured data, which is available, and also unstructured data. Unstructured data is the kind that you would typically see on the marketing side. Somebody's come to your website, somebody's searched for your product, somebody's dropped in let's say some sort of a half-baked lead for a quote generation. And structured data is where somebody has given you all the information, proposal form, nominee, et cetera, et cetera. So just putting structured data and unstructured data into a unified data platform, I think that's extremely crucial. Otherwise, you are probably operating at about 30-40% of potential efficiencies.
Got it. And Shivangi, from a ad tech platform perspective, right? You've got working across multiple brands, apps. What are brands doing from a integration of data, third party to first party? How are you seeing that landscape change in your world?
Right. So essentially, companies like us who are a programmatic DSP, we compete with the likes of Google and Meta in the world, right? Which are walled gardens. And the kind of data for example, search intent data, which a Google might have, we definitely can't have. So there are two kinds of data pieces which we essentially stitch together. And for that matter, any DSP stitches together to find the right intent users. The first kind of data is the first-party data, which we essentially enrich our user tables through the advertisers or the brands which we are working with, right? Which essentially, let's say, the biggest example would be here that we have user data essentially, where we can find out which are the power users in a specific app or a specific brand. And then looking at the attributes of those set of users, we go ahead and find out similar users who exhibit similar attributes when it comes to a power user for a brand for which we are finding more users, right? The second kind of data is the user profile data, which has been talked about earlier as well, where we build our user profile tables through the bids which we are sending to the users on various devices. The data points like what are the various apps which are available on a user's phone. So if you have a Nykaa app on your phone, there's a higher probability that you will end up installing and buying from a Tira Beauty as well, just quoting an example here. So a lot of probabilistic as well as deterministic modeling goes into building these data points together, stitching them together, and obviously there's no guarantee that the user we are bringing to the table for a brand is 100% right intent user for them, but at the same time, we attach a certain probability to it and work basis what's best available data in all forms and shapes.
Got that. One of the favorite marketing questions, right, is measuring success. So, Vishal, in your view, for the single unified, customer view to be a success, what are some of the KPIs that you would, measure and track against?
Yeah, so see, finally, from a marketing perspective, the reason why you're doing it is so that your ROI on the overall marketing plus ad tech budget, including the marketing technology platform that you have deployed, is it significantly superior than if you were not to have done this, right? So standalone marketing, let's say, without the technology platforms and the data platforms, is it giving X ROI? Now, if you're doing all this effort and putting in all the smart people, and it's expensive, right? It's not very cheap doing this exercise, and it takes a lot of time, energy, information security layers, all of those have to be put onto these platforms, right? So your ROI definitely has to get significantly better from where it is today. I mean, the other way to look at it is if you don't do it, your competitors might be doing it, and therefore it's just hygiene, right? So, I mean, these are the two lenses you have to look at it from.
Avi, according to you, like what's the metric of success that you're measuring against? And this could be something that you currently also don't have in place, and you would love that to be in place 6, 12, 18 months from now.
That's a very interesting question, because while we look to integrate the data, how is it that you would be able to measure this metric? What is the metric that is an indicator to it? I feel everything boils down to one, the consumer experience or the customer experience, which is the CSAT or satisfaction, and how is it that you are able to influence that? If a person is going into a store, will the person on the store be able to get the data, understand what have been, the consumer's purchase behavior and help them to buy better within a retail store? And at the same time, if they say have used a credit card earlier, those points, can they be, those offers, etc., could they be given on all omni-channel platforms, etc.? So consumer satisfaction, consumer experience, how is it that you can enhance that overall is very key. Apart from that, when you are utilizing data, how clean is the data? So discrepancy in data can be one other metric, right? That all the different databases or different tools, platforms that you have, say a apps flyer to a Adobe to a, GA, what is the kind of error that you get across each one of these for the number of customers, for the number of orders, for the number of, these are simple basic ones, but still sometimes when the platforms and tools talk to each other, they are not able to integrate and there is a big error that is there. Now, that I'm talking about not at a micro level, n equal to 1 level, but even at a macro level where you're looking at larger bases, etc. There is, whether that discrepancy is 1%, 2%, which is still livable, ideally should not be there, or greater than 5%. So those things also could be used to see whether we have the right data flowing into each of the places or not.
Also, are you currently looking at the view from like quick commerce, right? We were discussing this offline. Where I think at this point, obviously, not very forthcoming with data, the quick commerce companies, but is there, plans of integrating that level of data with your internal, direct customer view? Like, what are you thinking, looking at the future?
So Prashant, we would love to do that, but like Vishal said, who owns the customer? Who owns the, consumer? While we are creating the product, but since they are the ones who are distributing it, they are the ones who are really, owning it till the time the consumer is providing some information, which is a very small percentage of data that you could collect back. There are brands who are doing it with respect to, say, when they give you an incentive to check whether this product is an authentic product or not. You scan a QR and you go to their website, put in your email ID or a phone number to check whether, as a first step, you get to know the consumer a little bit better. But that percentage from what the overall base is really, really, small and minuscule. So ideally, in an ideal world, yes, we would love to have more information. And that is, again, not from a point of view of just, marketing, but from a point of view of enhancing the customer experience itself. It'll help the consumer at the end of it, and both brands will win out of it.
Yeah.
But currently, it's not there.
Yeah. Shimangi, your point of view on metrics that you see brands that you work with, like what are their go-to metrics on a unified view that they're tracking against?
So from a brand perspective, I think the most important metric to all the digital marketers is LTV. So if the dollars are flowing in, everything's good. If they're not, things don't work as intended. How it's related to the data stitching together is the fact that as enriched as our data tables will be, the probability at which we will be finding a right intent user for a brand would be even higher. So if I don't even have the data of whether this particular user is a male or female, there's a very high chance that I am showing the kind of ads which it's not intended for them, right? So I think as and when the data is more enriched, we are able to show better quality of ads to the users with the right intention, and hence the probability of taking those actions within the app or for that particular brand increases manyfold. But apart from LTV, what really matters to us as a third party here is the cost of acquiring that user, right? Again, better enriched data tables are, probably I'll be able to convert that user to install the app in just one impression, right? And which significantly reduces the cost, not just for me, but for my brand as well. And I think lastly, for the ecosystem, right? Since we are working in a world where ad frauds are probably one of the top concerns for most of the marketers, we also significantly reduce the ad frauds if, again, the user profile tables are super enriched for us. So I think these are the three metrics which are the most important in our world.
Got it. There can't be a panel without a question on AI, right? So we have to throw that in here. Vishal, with you cringing, I'll start with you. I mean, we talked about intent, right? And I was reading stats only last week that OpenAI ChatGPT has increased to upwards of 5 billion visits on a monthly basis, and it's ramped up, right? Like what it's done in the last 2 years is something Bing was trying to do for the last 15 years and give Google a run for its money. How are you, within the life insurance space, viewing large language models from a consumer perspective as a discoverability tool? Like, are you guys thinking about that where someone's actually searching for, the difference between life and term insurance? HDFC Life wants to be there across Perplexity, ChatGPT. Have you started to think about customers from a view of large language models where they are spending time?
Yeah, so we have a data science team, and our whatever AI and everything is part of their purview. The way we are working on it is right now it is being used for summarization of information for a lot of internal stakeholders. So it can be, let's say, a product brochure. You just summarize it so that your distributor can understand it very easily. You have a customer, let's say, a claims, whatever set of documents which have come in. The AI tool can scrape through it and summarize it for somebody who's approving the claims process, and so on and so forth. There are multiple use cases. The reason we have not taken it out to the customers is because we want it to hit a certain level of accuracy. So now that's going to be a journey, and that might take anywhere between, you can say, 2 to 3 years at the minimum. It's also a regulated industry, so you can't give any wrong information and stuff like that also. But the fact of the matter is, in the next 3 to 5 years, for example, if you're running huge call centers for servicing or for new business advisory, etc., a lot of that will get converted into what is called as agentic AI. The term programmatic also is, automation, programmatic AI, right? AI is maybe more efficient way of doing it. Also, we have to look at where the customer trends are going to shift. Customers still going to go and search on platforms like Google, and then you have 10 blue links which come in, or are customers seeking answer engines, so as to speak? So you put in a question and you get an answer. So if that changes, consumer behavior changes, then obviously you have to be on platforms, whether they're created by the existing set of Meta Googles, or whether it's somebody like Perplexity which comes out and creates that, and whatever, the customer traffic moves there. So it totally depends on how some of that customer traffic will move, but the pathway is very, very clear on that. So, but the investments have started.
Avi, your view here? I know we've been discussing this offline, but the audience would love to know what you're thinking.
So, AI has implemented, so when we talk about data is useful across the organization in every function. And if you're able to collect the data, if you have a right place to collect and store the data, AI is able to process that data in a much faster and a better way. So analytics and processing becomes faster. The B is culling out of the insights. That also can be done at scale with multiple sets of data. So stitching together and getting the insights also becomes easier. Now that could be done in all the functions across, multiple use cases. So take this example. In our dark stores from where we are delivering flowers, we're delivering cakes, etc., we've put cameras where we are collecting data of what is the, chef preparing, what is it that the, florist is doing. And AI is able to analyze whether that person is wearing the chef cap or not, whether that person is wearing the gloves or not, and is able to transmit that data, collect it, and show it to the area manager that there is a discrepancy that is here. Similarly, we are working on something similar on how the product looks like also, what is the variance there. Collection of data, processing, and quickly creating a result out of it which can be used at the same time. Similarly, from a marketing POV, many use cases where we are able to understand customer behavior, consumer behavior in a much better manner, because when you're automation or machine language could only do as much. AI is now able to do further and is able to do it at scale. So we are able to get better insights and personalize the communication at sometimes n equal to 1 level, and even if not at n equal to 1 level, still able to stitch social graphs in a much better, way.
Yeah, because this is, ideally, this is where your customer view comes in for that dark store where you figured out these issues, where you're like, okay, this is why repeat business from this store is declining. right? That's kind of the point, and you tie and stitch those two data points together with AI, which you earlier probably would be, struggling with. I think we're into time. We'll open it up for Q&A right after the last question, which is basically future trends, right? Shivangi, we can kind of start with you on, how do you predict the SVV, the overall singular unified view, 3 to 5 years? Like what kind of lens and technologies do you see come in?
Right. I think two most important aspects here. First is a privacy-centric world where it will be very prominent in the future. And we got to ensure that we are ready for that, right? I think things would be moving from a more deterministic point of view, that we for sure know this about the customer, to a more probabilistic point of view, where we talked about AI and ML, where we would probably use AI, ML, and similar technologies to give a certain probability that, this customer of mine, or probably a prospective customer of mine, would be doing this as a next step, or taking a specific action in the app or on the website, right? So I think that's one. And another aspect of it would be how we are sharing the data with each other. And I think in this aspect, data clean rooms would be a big thing in future. They already are with a lot of categories of specific companies, especially in the banking and the financial services sector. And I think the use case of this will extend to a lot of consumer brands as well, as users will shy away from sharing their data as well as their PII information, right? And lastly, I think with the power of AI and ML, how we are faring with respect to, how things are moving, we shall be able to stick to all the privacy-centric laws like GDPR, CCPA, etc., move into a cookie-less world, and essentially build out a data system which essentially also takes care of the privacy laws, which I think everyone's scared of at this point in time.
That's why I didn't cover it also. I skipped that whole section on data privacy.
I'm sorry for bringing this up, but I think that would be the future of how we utilize and look at our data.
Great. Vishal, any thoughts here on future trends that you see within this space evolving?
Yeah, no, I think similar to what I spoke previously, he also spoke. See, the only thing is it all going to make things cheaper, faster, and better for the customer? If you're offering that to the customer, customers are more than willing to share any information that you want, right? So, I mean, they are more than willing to share. I mean,
as long as the experience is great and it's not hindering, right?
What is storing your credit card details, so that you get an easy checkout? What is giving you a PAN card so that I can pull your credit bureau data and give you, let's say, an instant offer? So customers are more than willing to share data.
Unless, of course, it's that customer from Pearls and Petals where Avi sends him a message saying, you delivered to these 2 addresses, would you like to deliver
Was it
again?
only
And
2
that
or
note
were
comes
there more?
home. Avi, your thoughts?
So to that, data protection and data privacy is super, important, and it is going to be a larger trend as consumers. While they share the data, they do not want that data to go without their consent. They do not want the data to be shared anywhere outside, and also they would want that data to not be used when they do not want to. If they do not want a brand or a platform to communicate to them through an X channel, they should have that control. So data privacy and protection is going to be a trend. AI we all spoke about, most of it Shivangi covered. What we're also going to see is how we can use the ecosystem to create a much better, seamless experience for consumers, which is taking the point from even data clean rooms. How is it that a customer who's banking can also get a better experience on another website because of their XYZ, insights or trends that you know about them? And the third is predictive. That how is it that within the AI space also, there will be much more of predictive marketing, predictive sale that is going to happen. So, if you're recently into a relationship, predictive analytics would tell you that send roses across.
I think that you should. But I don't think you need data for that.
If you are in a relationship.
Okay, so with that, I know we're up on time, but we can take a couple of questions for the panel. I know. Yeah, go ahead. Avi. Ferns and Petals guy's name is Avi.
Yeah.
Marrying the first and third party data, or there are people who are logging in through email and phone, so you have more data about them. And then there are other people who are going offline buying and other areas. So how are you marrying the two in terms of getting a holistic picture, either individually or at a cohort level, one. Secondly, to our banker, insurance, that after using CDP, did you find that this whole percentage increased in terms of identifying the individual? That's the same individual. Did CDP help in that way? So these are the two questions.
Yeah. So whenever a consumer interacts with the channel, we try and collect the first source, which is the source of truth for us, the unique identifier for that particular customer while collecting that data. So when you are signing up and you're placing an order, you would be required to put up an email ID and a phone number. Similarly, when you walk into a store and you're completing an order, the person who's at the store would ask for your phone number or an email ID. And if you're going to call on a call center, again, the same. If you're calling, we already have your number if it's the same number. Otherwise, email ID is also asked for. So once the data is collected in all those three places, we then store it. There is a data warehouse where all of this is collected, and then it is presented into a singular format. Say we are using CleverTap as one of our partners, wherein that information can come in all integrated into a single view for the customer, so that can be utilized both from a marketing point of view as well as from a customer care, customer service point of view.
Yeah, so I mean, my advice will be not to go with heavy investments and buy, purchasing, let's say, a tool which has been sold to you. It's better to look at your use cases properly and then kind of custom build this, because it takes a lot of effort for your marketing folks, for your technology folks, and for the rest of the ecosystem to come together to build those use cases. But definitely in terms of the return on investments, it's been positive compared to what you would have seen without integrating this marketing platform. And the whole idea is there to kind of move beyond the walled gardens which the big tech companies today have, right? So if you start collecting more and more information at that initial stage, then it's possible to kind of integrate these various platforms and then run your own marketing campaigns on top of that.
So would you say that the revenue you earned was more because of the implementation of CDP, the cost?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hello, hi. This is Purva. I'm from ULA Services. Avi, I have a question for you. You mentioned something about personalizing communications to ensure really strong, like consumer behavior and, like helping them actually understand that the brand perceives them on an integral level. How does that blend with, like bringing ad tech and AI-based technologies to understand such personalization and taking it deeper with, algo? Like, what's your viewpoint on a very strong branding campaign through AI?
Good question. So what we do is that we look at how is it that we could create kind of a social graph for the consumer, and for that technology really helps. So if you say, if you've ordered a gift for your mother, you are most likely to also gift on a Mother's Day. So how do you stitch the two together and create an insight out of it and help them? Similarly, we were talking about if you say gift it to your partner, then why not send you a reminder on Valentine's Day also? So there will be many occasions like that, and you use these signals in multiple ways to create these insights and then get the right cohort. Because see, reaching out to the consumer is always expensive. You do not want to spray and pray. How do you personalize it to the T is what, also predictive. I was talking about how we can become more predictive. Right. So we know that a customer for, say, Rakhi is going to come 15 or 20 days ahead of the festival and going to order, versus another customer who usually orders last minute, comes on the same day or previous day. So you could communicate in a very different manner at a different time to both the customers, and their incentives or incentivization could be very different. So somebody who's coming in last minute, you can give them an offer to convert maybe earlier by giving them a better discount, and that discount percentage could also be driven through AI and data in terms of what is his probability, has he used coupons in the past or has not used coupons in the past, and so on. So there are multiple use cases in which you can personalize the data at an n equal to 1 level. For us, as a brand, it's super important to do that, because, you know, someone's birthday is as unique as it can get, right? And their loved ones, you know, celebrations, etc., will be as unique as possible. How is it that we can understand what your choices are, whether, you know, the person that you've gifted to and the person who's gifting, their choice is flowers, or their choice is, you know, unique personalized gifts, or their choice is luxury, what is their choice, and then help them to buy and get that gift in the most easiest possible manner is what, you know, we work towards by using all of this.
Thank you so much. Just a small follow-up on this. Like you just said...
I'm so sorry, ma'am. We're completely out of time. My panel is still waiting. But we'll request you to please take those questions offline. Thank you.
Thanks, the panel.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay. So, Prashant, thank you very much. And if I could please request the panel to please step forward for a group photograph. Can we have a round?